Hello, this is Brad Weisman. You're listening to Real Estate and You. We have an awesome new show lined up for you today. This is going to be really fun and funny, actually. I have Brandon Lesagonicz here. I said his name right. I should know how to say his name since he's a friend of mine. But we have a show we're going to do. It's a little pilot program. You're kind of guinea pigs right now, just so you know. Everybody listening is a guinea pig. And we are doing a show. It's a spinoff called Real Estate Behind Closed Doors. And what that means is we're going to tell some stories.
Absolutely. About
things that you don't normally hear about when it comes to real estate. Brandon, we just talked about this a little bit before we actually went live here. It's kind of funny. But, everybody says our job is just like, looks cakey, right?
It seems, almost like newspaper, paper cutter kind of.
Yeah, it does. Everybody thinks that they're like, okay, you get in this business, and I love how people always say we get in this business to have more freedom.
Right. Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's more freedom. You hear that one?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
How much freedom do you have in this business?
Well, according to everyone, all of it.
You have a lot of freedom.
You do.
You have a lot of freedom.
It's freedom without being free. I like to think of it that way.
Yes.
Your mind is always on a deal or something like that, or you're always, if I'm not working, I feel like I'm messing up or missing something.
Yeah. So true. And what's the other ones we hear in our business? It's so, well, I think everybody thinks we just drive around in nice cars and, we have the freedom. Oh, and I can come and go as I please.
Yeah.
Make my own hours,
which, we're at the mercy of the people who want to see the houses.
The clients.
So, within a reason we do, but
pretty much they make our hours.
They kind of,
which is great. We love our clients. I'm not busting on our clients. I'm just saying, getting into the business, we hear a lot of different things. At the end of the day, it's a great, great career to have.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
I do love it.
And the reason we're doing this show is Brandon had an idea, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about it, is he had this idea about, not just telling the stories that are the serious real estate stories, and some of them are going to be serious, but we're trying to get into, the behind the doors. It's what the show's called, is Real Estate Behind Closed Doors. It's getting behind the scenes, behind the doors, and seeing what you and I do in a day-to-day business.
Yeah, and I think this will be good because a lot of people only hear about, like, when I listen to podcasts, which is almost daily, whether it's cool, a lot of real, this show being one of them. You
didn't have to say that. He's like, oh, by the way, I listen to your show too.
Well, you knew that already. I've given reviews. So you always hear about great marketing stories and market this way and great success stories, but it's not always like that in any way.
No.
So I was thinking, like, what would be really awesome is to bring in and tell stories from time to time from our side or an agent side that were catastrophic, the unordinary. If you did a showing and the house was haunted, or if you had a horrible deal, what went wrong, and how we could figure out how to explain it. I feel like there's a lot of knowledge behind just those scenarios as well.
It's funny when you talk about the haunted thing. See, this is stuff that's not scripted, because we don't script the show at all. No. We never do. We come up with some ideas. We do bullets and things like that. But all the real estate news shows, including this series, there's no script. So one of the things you just said about haunted. Do you get scared to death sometimes to go into houses at nighttime that are vacant?
No, me personally.
You don't?
I'm a big horror fan. Oh. So, I mean, you put me in that scenario.
So you're hoping a hatchet comes out, or what?
My heart's racing, but it's exhilarating.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever hear feel like you heard something?
Yeah. And Berks County is known as one of the most haunted places in the world.
I never knew that.
From what I was told when I was younger, and stories in the newspaper.
Well, yeah, Charlie Adams had a whole book about that. Yes, very much so. So that was funny. You just noticed when you said about the properties going into, I always get creeped out. Like if I'm there at nighttime and I have to go down in the basement to do something, or up to the second floor, there's not anybody there, it's dark, it just creeps me out.
Well, a vacant home, depending on where it is, chances are I'm going to sway them from not showing it, because the electric's not on.
Yep.
I'm going to have to go back during the daylight just to check out the roof if it's dark out. Like, come on.
Yeah, and that's tough during the winter because it gets dark at 5 o'clock.
Absolutely.
So let's keep going back into closed doors here, or behind closed doors. So do you want to tell your story first, or am I going to tell my story first?
Why don't you start?
I'll start out? All right.
You've been in the business already. You probably have better ones.
So 25 years ago, back when I was a much younger man. No, so this is what's interesting about the story I'm going to tell you, was that I was telling you before, is that years ago, we used to do what's called an agent tour. And if you've been in this business for a long time, you will remember that. And what that means is that when we would get a new listing, everybody would pile in their cars on a Tuesday morning, usually after the sales meeting, and we'd go house to house to house to house. Now, sometimes we bid 10 houses on a Tuesday morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a lot of driving around, a lot of things like that. So when I first got into business, and this is almost 30 years ago then, we went on a tour. And I get in the car and we go and we get to this house, and the listing agent goes up to the house and starts opening the door. It was right off of Lancaster Avenue. I'll never forget this. And and I hadn't been to many of these. This is kind of new for me. And they open the door and I get this like odor that's coming out of the doorway. And I'm like, okay, some houses don't smell as good as others. Okay. So I get this odor and now I see that the listing agent go in and he's saying something, doing something. So I'm like 3 people behind or 2 people behind the listing agent. And he goes in and we all start doing single file in through the door. Now the odor starts getting stronger and stronger as I go in the door. Okay. Mm-hmm. So when I go in the door, it's stronger and stronger. Next thing you know, there's this guy running around naked on the first floor of the house, like just running. I'm like, it's new in this business. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's clothing optional when you do the agent tour. I didn't know that it was going to be naked people running around a house.
Did you get naked? Did you think it was
I did not get naked? No, it was not naked optional. It was actually everybody else was clothed.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and then I thought maybe we caught him off guard. Maybe he didn't know about the agent tour. I mean, I don't know.
So did the agent know this is one of agent you knew with the listing?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, did he tell them?
Can you avoid a listing with the way you guys did back then? Just like, this listing is not for an agent tour.
Oh yeah, but the particular agent that it is, and that person's still in the business, nice person, was very, very, you're going to come see every listing, whether it's got naked people in it or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, I would try to avoid the embarrassment of the
You try to avoid naked people in the house?
Well, things happen.
It depends who it is.
It depends.
That's right. That's exactly right. So yeah. So now I'm going. So now this gets worse. Okay. I start walking. So I start walking because now the listing agent kind of knew the guy and it got him rushed upstairs to get clothing on. And as I walk in the living room, now at this point the odor is actually just overwhelming. That I'm like to the point where I'm getting a little nauseous. Like it's just bad.
Yeah.
It's just bad. I call it like dirty people smell kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like just not a good thing. Mm-hmm. And then I look over and there was poop on the floor.
So did you know it was human?
I thought you could answer if it was my poop. I'm like, no, it was not.
Did you know it was human? Could it have been an animal? Because I've been to listings where an animal did defecate in some way, or there was a common problem like in a basement.
Yeah.
Did you know it was like the guy?
I think we all kind of assumed because it just looked like that. Not that we sat there and studied. But it just kind of.
You should know the houses you're selling.
Yeah, well, it wasn't my listing. If it was my listing, I'd know what kind of poop it was. But no, I exited quickly.
Yeah, no doubt.
And obviously felt bad for the whole situation. But it was an interesting first experience in my business, So those are the things we encounter sometimes. Now, we don't do agent tours anymore.
No.
That got to be.
Maybe we should bring them back.
No, let's not. With gas prices the way they are.
Oh, true.
And also, you know what happened? How that went away was because people just didn't have time. And with the onslaught of photography and virtual tours and drones and all these things, we don't need to always physically be there to see the property.
In fact, most people know they really want the house before we even take them.
Exactly. So let's hear, what do you got for me?
Well, probably being newer at the time, I was like maybe 2 years in the business, and I've been in it almost coming up on 6 now.
Awesome.
Being in this market with people being able to look you up even before, they know who they're calling, they know who they're contacting. So I get a call from I just get a call on my way home from another listing appointment, and they asked me to show them a house that I had listed. Now, it's very rare to get a call from a sign anymore.
Right.
So
absolutely. So true.
Very rare. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. So get with them, meet them, stuff like that. Daughter's quite a few years younger than me. The mom is the one that called. She's quite a few years older than me.
Okay,
the mom
so you have your choice.
Yeah,
No,
the mom starts. The mom starts becoming very close with me.
Right,
now, at first,
sure.
I think she is a very talkative lady. So I thought this is just her personality. Then it starts turning into 9, 10, 11 o'clock texts, pictures of her when she was younger.
Oh boy.
So she got and it was house after house after house. And now I'm figuring out this isn't even about them finding a house. They were pre-approved, but
That's how I felt at that moment. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So eventually I had to cut them off because it became so apparent that the mom was more interested in the daughter who's looking for the house and more interested
Was the
about
daughter
me.
really looking for a house, or was she like a decoy?
They were pre-approved, but the daughter was so nervous to even be around me anymore. It's almost like she knew her mom's agenda.
Oh,
it was
my
very
gosh.
odd. Like the daughter hardly spoke, and the lady would bring her.
This was like a dating game.
It was horrible. Like they even had the stepdad come in with to look at the homes, but she would still say little innuendos.
Wait, the stepdad, the dad of the mom that's
dad
texting
of the daughter
you?
who's looking for the home.
Oh, got
The
it.
stepdad.
Okay.
Yeah, but the wife of the girl who's texting me late at night.
Okay. Oh my
So,
gosh.
Yeah. So they like he would be there and he would just take these little innuendos thrown at me and like just shrugged his shoulders like, what am I going to do?
Very uncomfortable.
Yeah, dude. So, at first there's a sense of like, oh, okay, big deal. We get flirted on in this business all the time. Especially,
I don't, but Brandon does, obviously.
Well,
I'm missing out.
well, especially women. They get creepers
sure.
all the time.
Sure.
So
Sure.
it's
You got to
like-
be careful in this business.
It
there.
does. So
and that's a serious subject
and that's
right there.
that's a big sign that if there's something wrong and they're texting you too much, you should know it right
Well,
away.
if it has nothing to do with the house, too.
Well,
You know what
I
mean?
don't. I always try to make my clients turn into friends.
Oh, yeah,
You know
of
what I
course,
mean?
of course.
But so I'm trying to save face and be professional. And at some
Sure.
point when she's texting me like
Crossing the line.
yeah, she'd text me
Crosses the
pictures
line.
of her at like
Yeah.
a Leonard Skinner concert and whatever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it just like
I
very
see.
flashy material. I got a little freaked out, so I ended
Yeah.
up having to drop them because I'm not going to risk my license over doing something unethical. Or
Yeah,
something like
exactly.
that.
No, that's crazy. Crazy.
Yeah.
So yours was, you got hit on.
Very hardcore. Like it got to the point of pretty much like nudes being sent to me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Are you kidding me?
No. And if
Wow,
this was
you
by
still
the
have
mom,
Well, typically on this show, what we do is we show the pictures of what we're talking
know
about.
what? I knew
So
I
no,
brought
I'm
my
just
phone
kidding.
down for a
Just kidding. Hugo usually puts the pictures up while we're talking about it, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send them to you later, Hugo.
No, that's crazy.
It was. So I ended up having to drop them, and it became she was mad. She was mad.
I'm sure she was.
So,
Yeah, I'm sure she was.
So I felt bad, and I've looked them up from time to time. They still have not bought a house today.
Oh my
So
gosh.
just as the public records, because that's one client that stood out. That
Interesting.
but it was 50,
Her mom hasn't found the right person yet.
the right.
She has. What's funny? The daughter hasn't found the right house, and the mom hasn't found the right man.
Well, this I guess her husband.
Maybe it's like a combo. Maybe she's thinking, if I get the right house, I'll have the right agent that
Yeah.
the mom can be with, and it's
it's a
match
very-
made in heaven.
It is.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
match made from Zillow.
Yeah, that's incredible, unbelievable.
That happened to me once too, where the lady was hitting me, and she told me that if I would succumb to her wishes, she would give me this pair of headphones.
And, well, you have the headphones.
Are you? Now that's pretty
I'm
funny.
just kidding. She didn't give me. No
How young
headphones.
was she, Hugo? Jeez.
I mean, they're wired. So
Those
pretty-
are from.
pretty old.
I think those are from from a Disney movie.
I
or
got that
something.
with my iPhone 1.
Too much. So I got one other story that if you want me to hear the
Yeah,
story,
absolutely.
I'll tell you the story. I've got many over 30 years, and there'll be a lot of people coming on. One of the things we want to do, Brandon, right, is bring in another agent
Yes.
each time, and that agent will then share their stories, and we can kind of have a good time talking to them about their stories and things that happened to
Absolutely.
them or with them.
I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some agents that I know that post pictures and weird stuff all the time.
Yeah. And also, while you're listening to the show, if you think of ideas or think of something that creeped you out or something that happened during your purchase, while you were purchasing a house, let us know. Send us the story, and we can always bring it up on a show and actually say, hey, you got to hear this one. This buyer, this is where it turns it around. They could be like, oh, I was creeped out by the agent.
Absolutely.
You know what I
there
mean?
you go. That's
That the
true.
agent was a Nimrod. That's a word I haven't used for a while, right?
Nimrod.
Nimrod. That's an
Wow.
old one. I'm bringing them back.
What does that mean?
I'm bringing Nimrod back, like me and Justin Timberlake. But yeah, so the next story I have is this happened about 20 years ago or more. And this is wild, and this is serious. It's serious and funny. It's funny now, but it was serious when it was happened. I swear I almost threw up several times when this happened. So I met a customer who was referred to me, and we went out to a new home development. And at the time, this new home development, there was, I thought, one spec home. Okay, so I'm looking at the information. It was not my development. It was somebody else's. They're telling me there's a spec home. That what's really nice about the spec home is it's done. It's finished up until carpet. and things like that, and cabinets and things like that. So what your buyer can do is they can still pick out those things. Perfect world. Takes about 45 days for those things to get done, and we're good to go, right? So there was several spec homes in that development. I thought there was only one. So I show the customer the spec home, and they're like, love it, wonderful. We're going to pick out this. They went and did color selection for the carpets and for the cabinets, and did all that stuff, And so we get closer and closer to settlement. It's about 45 to 60 days away. We get closer and closer, and next thing you know, the buyer is calling me saying, "Hey, by the way, when are they going to start putting the cabinets and the carpets in, and I'm like, oh, let me check." So the listing agent says, oh, I think it's going to go in. Actually, they thought it was in already. Right, they're just not sure when it's going to go in. So buyers go back, they're looking in the window, and now I get a call this is about a week before settlement. My buyer says, hey, the carpets are still not in. Like, we're supposed to be settling in a week. Why aren't these carpets in yet? I'm like, I don't know. I said, let me call the agent. So I call the agent. And I'm talking to her, and I said, hey, they are saying that the carpets aren't in. You're telling me that they are in, and they're saying they're not in. So something's not right here. Of
course.
She goes, well, what spec home did you sell? I said, well, I sold the one. When you come in, you go to the right. It's on the left-hand side, has the red shutters, all that stuff. She goes, that's not the house you sold. I'm like, what do you mean that's not the house I sold? She goes, no, there's a spec home on the other street that should have all the things they picked in it. I said, but does that one have the same size yard as the other one? She goes, no, that had like a $10,000 premium on it. That one, the one that they actually bought, has a much smaller yard. My stomach starts turning. I almost puked. I just seriously almost puked. I'm on the phone, and I realize that for the past 45 days, I sold them a house that they never saw.
Right.
And it's the wrong house. So they're going to look at the house.
Everything?
It's very similar, a little different model. So they are looking at a house, because the reason there was no carpets in that house is because it was the wrong house. They're not looking at the house that I sold.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what happens now? The agent on the other line starts laughing her ass off. She's laughing. She thinks this is hilarious. I'm like, I said her name. I said, this is not funny. I said, this is really bad. I sold the wrong house.
That probably made you more mad.
Oh my God.
She's laughing.
So I had to make this very, very uncomfortable call. Very uncomfortable call. And I called the buyer. I said, I don't explain this. I said, but the house you've been looking at is not the house that your stuff is in. I said, but the good news is there's a house down the street that has all the stuff in that you picked out. There's the positive.
I have another one. Perfect for you.
I have one that you're going to love. So I'm like, so we need to go there ASAP, because we're settling on this in 3 days. And they're like, oh my gosh, what do you mean it's a different house? The most wonderful buyers in the world. We went to look at that house. They loved it because it had their kitchen, their bath, their carpets, all their colors were in there.
Right.
House was a little different. Yard was a little different. But they loved it anyway.
But they were already pointed to buy it.
Yes, but guess who was at blame if they didn't like it?
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, you fronted like this was a new one that they should have went with.
No, I just kind of said, this has all your stuff in it. I screwed up.
Oh, so you? Yeah.
I said I was completely transparent. I said, look, I screwed up.
So the listing agreement would have said the street and the lot.
The lot number wasn't on the houses at the time when we picked them out. I assumed there was only one spec home. So when we turned the corner of the one area, I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. There's the spec home, because there was only one in multi-list.
Right. Okay.
But there was another spec home that was up to the same
I could see how
standards.
this mistake would be made, though.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, and thank God the buyer was okay with it. Seriously, dude, it was bad.
Yeah,
it was
unreal.
Yeah, so I think we did very well for the first show.
I like it.
That's good.
You have fun? Did you have fun, Hugo?
Yeah.
I think it was good. I think it was really good.
Stories. Come on, I should say, if you have anybody has any stories to share.
Oh, I'm sure we have plenty of people with stories. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get agents here with stories, and I think you're going to be talking to agents with stories.
I have another one I would like to say, more like about on the lines of during a deal.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If you have any other agents or client, we could talk to clients.
Absolutely.
About a bad agent or bad houses that they toured.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of those.
Sure,
a lot of those.
Write us, write us.
There was funny. I've already had houses too that the floors you literally had to be careful.
Yeah.
Or decks. Have you ever been on a deck that's like completely rotted out and you're like, okay, do not go on that deck if it's on a second story.
There was a home where I had to walk on the floorboards.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, crazy. So this is the stuff we're going to talk about, guys. It's going to be all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to bring Brandon back again. It's called Real Estate Behind Closed Doors. It's going to be a series on real estate and you. And Brandon's going to be here with me every time. We're going to figure out some more stories and hear some really good stuff that'll
We killed it, buddy.
crack you up. I think that was a good first show. Very good first show. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.